6 minutes after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, let's now talk about an online series which is already underway. It's called the Manly Man series. It's, as I said, an online series which is animated, which seeks to target young men in society. Far too many of our young men, and we all know these stories, are making the headlines for negative behaviors which have a wider effect on the nation. Now these video clips, just about 30 seconds long, encourage responsibility, respect, productivity. Well, we have the man who's behind it, the manly man himself, Alvin Brown. And where you hear the accent, you'll know where he's from, because Jamaicans can't hide, much like everyone else, because of our different Caribbean accents. But he's produced this series, Alvin. Good to have you with us. Thanks very much for joining us as well. So tell us about this series and how it's being received so far.
Well, thanks for having me.
Sure.
The series was started because I realized that there was an issue with young men. A lot of the problems that we're having right now is because we have a lot of young men who don't understand who they are, don't understand their worth, and they have a skewed vision or a view of what makes a man. So we have an issue. And the thing is, we expect them to behave responsibly, but a lot of them haven't had the ability or the opportunity to be told what is responsible behavior. So that's the reason why I started the Manly Man series. And
we're looking at some snippets of it while we're talking to you. How long did it take to put this together, and what has been the response to it so far online?
Well, basically everyone who has seen it enjoys it, they like it, whether it is the mothers, the fathers, the sons, the sisters, the brothers. In fact, one of my biggest fans is an 8-year-old girl. So the response has been very good.
And where can people see it if they haven't seen it before? If there are people like me, for example, dinosaurs who are never online, who are not on social media, where can you actually see it?
Well, you can go on YouTube and search for Manly Man series, complete Manly Man series, and you should get all of them.
And you know, the issue is, Alvin, I mean, with what would have actually prompted you to take this step? Because as we were discussing before we came on air, we see a lot of the experiences in Trinidad and Tobago mimicking the Jamaican situation, the Kingston situation of 10, 15 years ago. And some people say, well, you know, it's kind of too late to do anything about this situation. What difference do you feel you can make by this particular series at this stage in Trinidad and Tobago?
You know, one of the things I do as well as I teach. I remember I was having a conversation with a group of boys, and I was telling them the importance of fathers spending time with their children and the knowledge that you can get from that. And one of the students raised his hands and he said something that really struck me. He said, "Sir, what if you don't have a father?" And for 2 seconds I was like, all right, think. I was like, but that's the reason why we're having this conversation. We're having this conversation because even though you may not have a father, you can get that information from somewhere else. So what I've realized is that there's a huge gap. There's a lot of young men who they really don't have a clue, but they are willing to learn, they're willing to listen. Once it is that you start to have a conversation with them about what is expected and what is important, very few of them will resist.
But is this enough? I mean, obviously it's not, but is this, what is it? Is it intended to trigger some thoughts in young men's minds?
So the intent is to start a conversation. And from that conversation, because I also use it in my classes, so we'll have a conversation about the video. We'll show the video, then we'll have a conversation about it. And then what you realize is you have a lot of them that come from different backgrounds, and therefore their mindset is different. And you try to bring them towards a particular direction. The intention, beyond just creating the series, is to cause conversation, national conversation, and then to create a curriculum for it in schools. Because at the end of the day, it's not simply a 30-second or a 40-second video, but you want to create values and attitudes which will transcend that 30 seconds.
But tell me about as to the challenge that entails, because you are putting all this effort, which is highly commendable. There are many others in different areas of society trying to do the same thing. Yet you see in mainstream media, online, different avenues, young men are bombarded by different messages.
Exactly.
It's an avalanche.
Exactly.
So basically, you're being overwhelmed with all of these negative stereotypes, the bling and the hypersexualization and the attitudes and so on that are very, very negative and very destructive and almost anti-family in that sense. How do you hope to combat that?
Well, that's it. That's the whole idea. I mean, if any parent right now would take their son, any child's cell phone and open it, you would be very shocked to see what the content is of that cell phone, because they're exposed to a lot of media. They're exposed to a lot of negative things, and the intention is to bombard them with that which is positive, because you can't expect them to.
But can you cope with that? I mean, can you really, I mean, in all seriousness, Alvin, can you or anyone else hope to actually compete with the entertainment industry, with contemporary media, with the resources that they would have, with many of our private sector businesses who benefit from these negative stereotyping of the young male and benefit financially from it? How do you hope to compete against that?
Well, you see, that's an excellent question. So what we're going to be doing is starting an entire movement, and this is just the beginning. So we're going to be looking on creating curriculum across the Caribbean for different schools. We're going to be looking at getting questionnaires from each of these schools, and it's going to be roughly real time, where you can get that information and be able to tailor your curriculum accordingly. As well, we're looking for sponsorship from private sector, because at the end of the day, money answers many questions.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I did recently is that I had partnered with Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, created a video for their adoption, their foster care. And we connected with Movietown, and we connected with Cinema 8, and we had that being showcased, sponsored from them. So it is possible to connect with media, to connect with the private sector, and to have that blasting.
And while we're having our discussion, if people want to get more information either on this particular series or your overall endeavor, or how they could be part of it, if they want to support it, if they want to ask a few more questions about it, how do they get in contact with you?
All right, well, they can go on the website customs-animations.com. They can also contact me at 363-0006. That's 363-0006.
Is that animation? Is that your profession? Is that something that you do as your primary business activity?
Well, it is one of my interests. So I create animated videos for advertisements, public service announcements. Like I said, I did one for Children's Authority. I've done a couple for UWI. So yeah, it's one of the things I do.
And how do you balance it? Because there is a social element to this, which may not make a lot of money, but might actually be able to make a difference in society in Trinidad and Tobago, and hopefully the wider Caribbean, going all the way back up to your native Jamaica. But does that present a challenge to pay the bills and to also fulfill this other objective?
It is quite a challenge, because time is money. So whenever you're focused on anything in particular, then it takes away from everything else. So it's a challenge. It's a balance that I am yet to completely establish.
And as far as the perspective that some will say, well, look, Alvin, I want to tell you that it's a really good effort, but you'll end up a frustrated young man.
Nah, I don't believe that. I've seen evidence of you changing their perspective already, because of the fact that I teach. So I have a captive audience.
Yeah.
They literally can't go anywhere for 2 sessions. So because of that, you have these conversations, and you constantly remind them about what is expected. So one of the things I do, if we're having a presentation or we're doing anything else, I say, gentlemen, let us remember where we are and who we are. And since we are intelligent, responsible, respectful young men, we'll pay attention. So you constantly have to give them that which is positive, because that which is negative is everywhere.
Where do you lecture? Where do you teach?
Trinity College East.
Okay, all right. Well, Alvin, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us. And as you can tell, even though he's been here in Trinidad for 14 years now, the accent is still there. It's kind of like David Abdullah. David Abdullah was in Jamaica about 40 years ago. He still can't get away from the Jamaican accent in many respects. But let me commend you on this effort, and let's hope more of corporate Trinidad and Tobago will get involved, that people really see value, apart from all of the negative messages that corporate TNT generally benefits from as far as pumping all sorts of products and whatever else, that this is an opportunity to try to deal with something that if we don't deal with really in a serious way, we're going to pay for a long time to come. Generations and generations are going to be paying for this, and our inability to help our vulnerable young men at this time in our lives here in Trinidad and Tobago. We've given you the contact information as well as to how you can reach Alvin in relation to this series and his own particular projects, and hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of that opportunity. It's coming up towards 7:16 in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be back right after this break.